Hello and welcome back. We will continue reading White Lies, How the South Lost the Civil War, then Rewrote the History by Ann Bausum. We are reading line number 11. White Southerners have been united during wartime. The Lost Cause wasn't born fully formed in 1865. It evolved to meet the needs of changing times. By the turn of the 20th century, the South's white leaders needed tenets that strengthened the unity of its white population during the Jim Crow era. Nostalgic views of the past were helpful, but proponents of the Lost Cause needed a solid South of white support in order to maintain their system of white supremacy indefinitely. One way to encourage greater unity as the new century dawned was to lie about the level of unity that it had existed in the past. White leaders did exactly that by erasing evidence of wartime disputes. Whites in North Carolina worked particularly hard at that task, in part because of the allegiance of the state's whites during the Civil War had been notably spotty. Many eligible white citizens flat out failed to show up and fight. Other states had also been troubled by the Confederate soldiers who hid from the recruiters, deserted their posts, and returned home, or left the South altogether and joined the U.S. military. Many of these men were still alive and back in the former Confederacy. Their potential examples of disloyalty were the last thing white leaders needed at the time in the South. To solve this problem, states employed a tool that symbolized service and devotion: military pensions. States had already been providing pensions to support their disabled veterans. But as the wartime generation began to age and Jim Crow took hold, they expanded their programs. The goal was to create as many recipients as possible who could be as visible as possible in their communities. The prominence of these veterans was expected to serve as evidence of the past white unity and as a model for future solidarity. Historian Adam H. Dombey has meticulously documented how the state of North Carolina employed this strategy in the early 20th century. Pensions were awarded to men who truly had served as Confederate soldiers, but they were also dispensed to white men who had avoided military service altogether, or deserted, or were too young to have served. Authorities were happy to accept invented stories of service as part of the charade. Men exaggerated their ages to make themselves old enough to have fought during the war. They claimed to have participated in units that they'd never known. They even declared they had fought for the Confederacy when they actually fought on the side of the U.S. government. States were willing to reward these lies with regular pension incomes for two reasons. First, more pensioners meant more Confederate veterans at local reunions and at the dedication ceremonies for commemorative statues, the perfect representation of white unity. Second, the pensions basically bought the silence of their recipients. No one would have wanted to compromise this steady source of income by talking about disloyal behaviors from the past. And today we read about lie number 11. White Southerners have been united during wartime.